Turn off your lights. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky.
She has developed Stockholm Syndrome for her captor, shouted one of the rescuers. Fine, we are taking the human who captured her as her new pet, replied the other mermaid. I'm not really a patient. I'm an undercover reporter, she confessed. That's okay. We're not real staff either, the asylum nurse answered with a big smile. Our religion is the Word of God. We are peaceful and we love everyone equally. The hangman wrapped the noose around the pastor's own son as the man himself watched with cold eyes, observing with a sick satisfaction as his own flesh and blood was killed for the crime of loving in a different way. My girlfriend told me to go to the far side of the cab so I'd have more leg room. After she closed her door, but before I opened mine, the driver locked her inside. Remember, violence is the only language they know, and they would not hesitate to make you suffer the worst atrocities if they discovered your true nature. Never mind. I want to know more about them. These humans. When you die, the person whose life you impacted the most decides whether you go to heaven or hell. Your 5-year-old son has been looking forward to this ever since you let him die of measles. With the cancer burning my lungs, the desire of death like the thirst, I aim a revolver towards my head. Unfortunately, due to your unresolved balance of $103,043.99, your request for death has been denied. Commencing resurrection protocols. Doctor, what are the test results on the 16 teeth my daughter left under her pillow for the tooth fairy? I got good news and I got some bad news. They weren't her teeth. I'd run into a dead end and it caught up saying, "Goodbye, Ryan," as claws tore into my chest. I jolted awake, not sure where I was, but then a twisted voice said, "Hello, Ryan. Better start running." Daddy, you're right about a guardian angel watching over me? The kid shouted as he entered his parents' room in the middle of the night. He knocked on the window and I let him in, he added as another man entered the room. As I heard the familiar jarring tone outside, I pressed a 20 into my stepdaughter's hand and told her to get ice cream for all of us. As she ran outside looking for the ice cream van, I ensured my kids and I were safe in the cellar and was grateful my husband's child had no idea what a tornado alarm sounded like. "No!" I shrieked, running up to my husband, who opened the door to the sweltering car he had left our toddler in all day. "I told you it had to be the swimming pool. The cops will never believe it happened twice by accident." Broken and bleeding, but incredibly still alive, I considered my survival a miracle given I'd been sucked up and subsequently launched by an immensely powerful tornado. However, laying in triage afterwards, I began to notice portions of my skin turning black as the putrid smell of rot filled my nostrils. As soon as the kid woke up in the crowded bus, he shouted that he was being kidnapped by a woman. All the women and kids in the bus looked at him, and one woman said, "Every child in this bus is being kidnapped." "You can't take me away from Mommy and Daddy," the child screams to the officers as they take him away. His parents and baby sister are found huddled in the closet, terrified and bleeding, and on the line with a police operator, his mom finally having called 911 on their psychotic child.
"Let's hope for the best,"
said the father as the search team entered into the forest to look for their missing daughter. "Don't worry, no one in the search party knows the girl is both blind and deaf," the mother whispered.
"I beat you, you don't own my soul,"
shouted the old man at the gate of hell. Saint replied,
"My dear Johnny, I let you win and take the golden instrument, so your pride and victory would bring you here all on your own."
The woman smacked my hand and told me not to distract the stewardess as they were busy and don't need to deal with my childishness. I flinched away from the peanut butter splattering flying from her mouth and tried not to panic as my throat began swelling. Floating on the lake's surface, my eyes closed behind my sunglasses, I giggled and my sister, who had been sunbathing on the shore, playfully grabbed my foot and tries to pull me underwater. "What's so funny?" she asks as I kick her hand away, her voice oddly distant. I told my 4-year-old daughter to get over her stupid fear before locking her out. I returned minutes later and opened the window to find the windowsill empty and a crowd gathered on the street far below. "I'm obsessed with this person, and I know you all will be too," the host stated as the camera panned to focus on the guest waiting just off stage. Within seconds, the audience was clamoring to get their piece of flesh, storming towards the guest as the host's smile twisted grotesquely.
"It's not you, it's me,"
I said to her as tears welled up in her eyes. My body was already starting to mutate, and with my last human words, I screamed, "Run!" They say a picture speaks 1,000 words. Is that why the voices won't go away? The woman looked at her 8-year-old, who looked like a teenager inside. "I'll bet 2 more years of his life," she said to the dealer. I was hurt when I found out that my husband, a lifelong conservative Christian, had Grindr on his phone. I was horrified when I found out all of his matches are missing persons. As I bow my head and leave the few coins I have left to my name in the cup, I say a little prayer for the man looking after us. I pray that the spirits of my ancestors will inflict harm upon them as they have done to all the so-called conquerors that have come before. We finally developed near light speed travel, and our first mission was going smoothly.
One day had gone by for us, almost a century back home, but we only found an asteroid field where home was supposed to be. I signed the contract, my soul for my wife's pregnancy not to fail this time. I now realize sometimes babies do not come to term for a good reason. Everyone was skeptical when the government rating first came out. But seeing everyone's value on their forehead has really helped triage rations and services. After years refusing to give her back the cat, I quietly hand him back to my ex-wife. "This is the last time I'm feeding you," I whispered as I nailed down the coffin lid. As my daughter and I began driving down the empty, dark road, I told her that we'd play a game where she could close her eyes and count every bump in the road that our car went over.
45, 46, 47,
she counted gleefully. I sighed deeply as I saw the hundreds of lifeless bodies that still littered the road ahead of us. I was gutted when my wife told me she was having an affair. We were in the kitchen, and they wanted the life insurance. My son looked so excited when I told him we're going to play on the swing and jump for joy. I watched the panic in his eyes as the noose tightened around his throat, and waited silently until his body finally went still. I was always scared of the figures behind my back, but I knew I had to be crazy. When they finally put me in an asylum, how was I supposed to feel when the doctor oddly gasped while looking past me? I'm a sentient plastic toy that can last forever, and I wish I wasn't my owner's favorite. Thanks to that, I'm now living in darkness and share a coffin with a rotting body as my owner's parents bury me with him when he died. I woke in a bathtub filled with ice, a note taped to my chest that said, "Call 911, one of your kidneys has been removed." This is the second time this has happened to me. Elsie sighed as she opened the door to find the milkman standing there smiling. As she reluctantly lifted her shirt, she took solace in knowing that as demeaning as this duty was, at least it was a better one than the women who weren't infertile. My best friend warned me to never see him in the moonlight. I thought he was joking. No one could hear my screams as he tore me limb from limb while the moon shined bright down onto us.
"You kidnapped me as a baby?"
I yell at my mother, horrified at the realization. My mother just laughs and says, "Can't kidnap what you rightfully purchased." I stared in amazement at the suicide note as it had somehow been written in my own handwriting. It was only as my hands wrapped around my throat that I discovered that my other personality was suicidal. I was filled with a divine sense of purpose for the first time in my life, knowing that the shipping containers on our boat had immigrants seeking a better and free life hidden inside them. And I could barely contain the overwhelming feel of patriotic pride I felt as I watched the containers be dropped off the ship,
one by one to sink deep into the ocean. "You'll make me happy, or you'll pay the price," she said to me while my daughter was out of the room. I don't know where my daughter got this doll. My 4-year-old son's hair had turned white, and I could see the madness in his eyes as we let him out. He kept screaming about a voice haunting from the darkness for millennia. As my gaze shifted to the sensory deprivation tank he had been in for less than a minute. "We don't know how long we've been trapped here, and only one of us brought our phone," the man and woman over the phone screamed almost simultaneously. It must have been a while, because in the 15 minutes it took for the rescue team to get into the hotel, we found the emaciated woman gnawing the limbs off the freshly killed man. It's my 20th birthday, so I cracked open my buried time capsule only to find a gun and a note that read simply, "Kill yourself." I let out a slight chuckle and thought, too bad you missed me by a few inches. I've lived your life well. Before stuffing the 22-year-old box back in the grave, next to my identical counterpart, where it belonged. Once the world's population hit 10 billion, aliens started coming to Earth in droves. Apparently, humans were no longer considered a protected species. We have finally created a chip to make any child the perfect child. Just put the pill in their drink at mealtime, and your child will follow any direction they are told. After the chip was put in drugstores for a cheap price, CPS reports went down to seemingly none. She told me she was a witch when we first started dating, but I found it a cute quirk and did not mind. "I didn't hate my time with you," she said with blood on the blade as her ex's form growing out of the shadow. "But better the devil you know." As a cursed prince turned into a talking mirror, today I lied to the witch queen that her stepdaughter is more beautiful than her. As the witch queen stormed off to kill her stepdaughter, I silently celebrate knowing that both will be killed in the landslide I foresaw, which will break the curse and leave me the only living heir to the castle's wealth and throne. I dated a blind woman for a while. Took me ages to get her husband's voice right. The stuff is supposed to peel off layers of dead skin in seconds, I told my friend, applying copious amounts of industrial-strength cream on my face. "The package translates as caution and doesn't specify dead skin though," my friend replied when the tingling sensation began. "This classroom is haunted," said the kindergarten teacher to the kids on their first day. Then he disappeared right in front of them as the real teacher walked in and apologized for being late. During the live broadcast of a story on a call, the TV host received a call from a crying 6-year-old boy who described in disturbing detail how a crazy home invasion had killed him and his family. The police later traced the call to a house where the entire family had been murdered 12 hours earlier, after rewinding the broadcast tape where only the TV host's voice could be heard. People say you stay conscious for a few seconds after being beheaded.
But I've been conscious for 3 days after my execution. It's been decades since I was confined to the fabrics of this couch. Paralyzed in my own filth, I begged them with my eyes to end my misery, only to realize they'd once again gone on vacation. I didn't say a word to him as I wanted him to learn from his own mistakes. I watched as my daughter cradled his little lifeless body and hoped he would have learned why putting a plastic bag over his head is a terrible mistake. With one simple law, the government ensured the ruling class could never commit an injustice again. Now, none of what they did is actually illegal, so it can't be unjust. Bleeding and bruised, I drove myself to the hospital to get patched up, only to be turned away from the ER without seeing a doctor. The intake nurse apologetically stated, "Oh, honey, you know we can't treat you without your husband present." I woke to small hands grabbing my ankles and groggily pulled my toddler into bed with me, then fell back asleep. Hours later, fear paralyzed me as I awoke to the sound of my own child crying from the baby monitor, my arms still heavy with the weight of whatever I had dragged into my bed. I'm stuck in a subway car with a creepy, leering man, but at least my stop is next. Attention passengers, there seems to be a blockage in the tunnel up ahead, so we'll have to wait until it's cleared. On Judgment Day, God allowed each human one question, so I lightly asked, "Are you even real?" There was a moment of silence before a few whispers could be heard from above. "Shit, they're onto us again. Let's reset back 3,000 years this time, just to be sure." I yelled at the doctor, telling him I stopped taking the experimental weight loss injections, but my belly is still shrinking. I'm 8 months pregnant, and the drug still thinks that my baby is just belly fat. And with that, our time together is coming to an end. As always, I'd like to thank all the writers who let me read all these 2-sentence horrors tonight. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, share, and comment. And if you're interested in more long-form content like this, check out 242 Reads as well. The link will be down below for you guys. But as always, thank you for watching and listening. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.